Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Dr. Javed Iqbal Khokar, Professor of Forensic Medicine and Toxicology, and this is the first lecture on autopsy to the new class of third year 22-23 session.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Starting with the most important topic of forensic medicine, that is autopsy. And this is the first lecture today. And the learning objective will be that we'll try to learn what is autopsy, what are various types of autopsies, and who gives authority for autopsy, because this is a big question. आपने अक्सर मीडिया में देखा होगा, हमने ऑटोप्सी नहीं करवानी, वारिस इजाज़त नहीं दे रहे, but authority is under the law. We'll discuss what is the relation to the media and the authority. Then there are rules and laws which govern the conduction of autopsy. And what are the objectives? Every procedure has got certain objectives. So autopsy, all types of autopsies have various objectives. Then what are various techniques? Please stop it. What are various techniques which are used for the dissection of the body? And these techniques are in various situations. So we can modify and select the technique which is required. Then this is the latest technique, virtual autopsy. And corpus delicti, because we have to establish the body of crime, not only autopsy, but we have to fix the responsibility. That is corpus delicti. We'll discuss it. And what is autopsy rate and what is autopsy index? This is the determination of the judicial system of any society. You can determine from the autopsy rate and autopsy index. So starting with the topic, the autopsy. It's made of two words, auto and ops. Auto means self and ops is viewing. So self-viewing, that means examination. Viewing of the body means examination. So auto-ops, autopsy means examination of the body. There are other words which are mostly used, that is necropsy and post-mortem examination. Necropsy from necro means dead, and that means the examination of dead. And post-mortem examination, that is the examination after death. So these are certain procedures. But now they have limited autopsy for the humans and necropsy for the animals or other inanimates. But post-mortem examination is a specific procedure which is not permissible in our system in Pakistan. But it is being conducted in certain countries like USA, Switzerland, Australia, and Far East. They use the post-mortem examination in certain situations. Autopsy and post-mortem examination, they are two different procedures. They are not same. Post-mortem examination, it's just examination of the exterior, that the external examination of the body. Here the cutting incisions, they are not allowed, but you can take the specimen with the help of needles. blood, fluid, or any other material, you can collect with the help of needle. So this is post-mortem examination, which is only external examination of the body surface of the case, and the specimens can be collected with the help of needle. Whereas autopsy is a complete examination, external as well as internal, collection of material for all the relevant investigation, which may be histopathological, biochemical, or toxicological. So autopsy is complete examination, external as well as internal, along with collection of material for the required labs, whatever the objective is. For example, if the allegation is poisoning, you have to take the samples of certain contents for detection of poisons. Or you are suspecting some disease process, you have to take the specimen of that particular region or a scheme, which is a set and listed group of tissues which have to be collected in routine for histopathological or toxicological analysis. Now, regarding the types of autopsies, you can say either physical and psychological. Mainly physical is actually physical and psychological is psychological. And physical you can divide in medical and medico-legal, whereas the virtual and mini autopsies, they are other types of autopsies. So autopsy, the most important, they are medical and medico-legal, but certain situation the psychological autopsy is also required. So physical autopsy, medical and medico-legal, psychological, virtual, and mini autopsy, they are the main types of autopsy. Now, starting with the medical autopsy, which is also called hospital autopsy. The medical autopsy is conducted on natural deaths. Medical autopsy is conducted on natural deaths occurring within the hospital. In Pakistan, we do not conduct medical autopsy because there is not system developed for investigation of diseases, research, to know the efficacy of the treatment or to confirm the diagnosis. So in Pakistan, the medical autopsy on natural deaths occurring within the hospital, it is not carried out, whereas in the rest of the world, it is being done. Medical autopsy on all natural deaths occurring within the hospital, and it is conducted by either the physicians or the pathologist, and they want to know what was the actual cause of death, because it has been seen that in 40 to 50% of the cases, besides all the latest gadgets, our diagnosis is wrong. So to confirm the diagnosis, to confirm the effectiveness of the treatment, to know the actual medical cause of death, they perform the medical autopsy on all the natural deaths occurring within the hospitals. So it is done to know the medical cause of death. Authority for the medical autopsy, they are the legal heirs. जो वारिस हैं उसके, they give the permission. parents, next of kin, or any other legal heir, they gives the authority in medical autopsy. And the autopsy surgeon is usually the pathologist. And pathologists have altogether a different approach. He is the histopathologist. He will try to find out the disease process. His approach is different than the medical legal autopsy surgeon. So the objective of medical autopsy, number one, is to know the medical cause. Then to confirm the clinical diagnosis and autopsy findings. What was the diagnosis before death, actual, and what is now? They compare that they were right or they were not right or wrong. Then effectiveness of the treatment. How effective was the treatment which was being carried out? And diagnosis purposes. Then the research. So the medical autopsy is on natural deaths occurring within the hospital to know the medical cause, actual cause, effectiveness of treatment, research, and to confirm the diagnosis. Now, the medical legal autopsy is on unnatural deaths. All unnatural deaths. They are either suicide, homicide, or accidental. They are unnatural deaths. And they are conducted in a special circumstances under a law. Medical legal autopsy is complete examination of the dead body, external as well as internal, to know the medical cause of death, cause, mode, and manner of death. Cause is cause of death: knife, firearm, rope, accident, that is the cause. Mode, the system which led to the failure, the vital system which led to the death, coma, asphyxia, syncope, and the manner, suicidal, homicidal, or accidental. So medical legal autopsy is complete scientific examination of dead body, external as well as internal, to know the cause, mode, manner of death under the law of state and protection of the society, administration of justice, इंसाफ. जो ऑटोप्सी रेट और इंडेक्स की बात कर रहा था, it is upon this principle. Administration of justice is the basic criteria of medical legal autopsy. जब तक इंसाफ नहीं मिलेगा, आपकी सोसाइटी फ्लरिश नहीं कर सकती. So this is the base. Autopsy rate, autopsy index determines the effectiveness of the judicial system and a better society. Now the psychological autopsy, basically it's an investigation. All suicides, suicidal deaths, it's along with the autopsy, it's an investigation. You go into the circumstances, you try to find out the mental status of the deceased around the time which he committed suicide, from the relatives, from the neighbors, from the friends, from the office workers, or in which circumstances he was. So psychological autopsy is physical autopsy along with investigation, psychological investigation to know the mental status of the deceased. Why he committed suicide. So all the information is gathered. Then mini autopsy. the word also explains. Mini means limited. When you have to perform a specific diagnosis, specific material to collect, that is mini autopsy. And in this, a limited incision is allowed. For example, on abdomen, it is said that 10 to 15 centimeter incision can be done. So mini autopsy is a limited procedure on a specific region for the research, for the diagnosis, or whatever the objective is. But mini autopsy in our country is not being done. In our country, mostly the medical legal autopsy. Medical autopsy, whenever the illegal issue arises, that death has been because of some negligence, then that medical autopsy will convert into medical legal autopsy because that becomes an unnatural death. So mini autopsy is a partial autopsy. It's limited incision can be taken for the collection of material. Now we'll talk about the medical legal autopsy in detail because it's most important for us. So medical legal autopsy is the complete scientific examination of dead body, external as well as internal, under the law of the state for administration of justice and betterment of the society. Simple definition है, this clears the concept of a society. ये सोसाइटी एग्जिस्ट कहाँ करती है, पूरा आपका जुडिशियल सिस्टम बेस करता है इसके ऊपर. हाउ इफेक्टिव you are performing the administration of justice, जिसकी हम सारा मीडिया चीख के कहते हैं, but it's very pity we are not able to. So significance is because we try to find out the cause, where is the foul play, to rule out any act of crime, any act of omission or commission. So this is the main significance, because you cannot dispose a body without any investigation if there is any suspicion in the cause of death. So all unnatural deaths, whether they are suicidal, homicidal, accident, law or भी define करता है, death by animal, death by accident, they all fall into unnatural deaths. They should be subjected to autopsy, but the requesting authority is the police. So rules of autopsy for medical legal autopsy, authority and laws. For medical legal autopsy, authority is state. Whenever unnatural death occurs, अब ये body वारसों की नहीं है. This belongs to state. बेनज़ीर की ऑटोप्सी नहीं हुई जी, वो जरदारी इजाज़त नहीं दे रहा. हु इज़ जरदारी? स्टेट ने अपनी पावर नहीं यूज़ की. स्टेट इज द अथॉरिटी इन ऑल अननेचुरल डेथ्स. जब भी अननेचुरल डेथ होगी, दैट बिकम्स द प्रॉपर्टी ऑफ स्टेट. नाउ द स्टेट विल टेक केयर ऑफ द राइट्स ऑफ दैट डेड सिटीजन. तो वो autopsy तो होनी है. So we being the police state, police gives us the authority. तो सिस्टम लाहौर में ये है कि जिस भी एरिया में अननेचुरल डेथ होती है, दैट इज़ रिपोर्टेड टू दी पुलिस स्टेशन, एंड दैट पुलिस स्टेशन इन्फॉर्म द कंसर्न्ड एसपी, और एसपी की तरफ से इन द नेम ऑफ इंस्टीट्यूशन, क्योंकि लाहौर में जो टीचिंग इंस्टीट्यूशन है, दे परफॉर्म द ऑटोप्सीज. किंग एडवर्ड मेडिकल कॉलेज एंड द अलामा इकबाल जिन्ना हॉस्पिटल एंड द लाहौर जनरल हॉस्पिटल, they issue the authority in the name of the institution. And this is the procedure, that in all unnatural death, the authority for medical legal autopsy is with the state, and police acting as state gives us the authority. And these are the laws, section 174 and section 176 of Criminal Procedure Code. एंड द पुलिस रूल्स देखें 1934 के अभी तक चल रहे हैं, हमने वही अडॉप्ट किए हुए हैं। उसके सब सेक्शन 25, सब सेक्शन 34 एंड 36 दे डिफाइन द रूल्स फॉर द कंडक्शन ऑफ द ऑटोप्सी। हमारे लिए ये दो सेक्शन ये सारी ज़िंदगी काम आएंगे, यही इंपॉर्टेंट है, सेक्शन 174 एंड सेक्शन 176। ये आप न्यूज़ में भी देखेंगे, फलां बयान इस सेक्शन के तहत हुआ, तो दीज आर द सेक्शन विच आर डायरेक्टली रिलेटेड विद द autopsy and the medical legal issues. Under section 174, whenever there is unnatural death, it is reported to the area in charge police station or the investigating officer of that area. जैसे एक पुलिस स्टेशन है, उसमें 4, 5, 6 अगर पुलिस ऑफिसर्स हैं, हर एक अपना एरिया होगा, ठीक है। दैट इन्वेस्टिगेटिंग ऑफिसर अंडर सेक्शन 174 will visit the scene of crime. अब अथॉरिटी देखें पुलिस की, to dispose of the dead body, authority is with the police. The sub inspector visiting the scene of crime, if he is satisfied that there is no suspicion of foul play, he can dispose of the dead body. And whenever he thinks that there is suspicion of foul play, only then he will forward the body for autopsy. This section has given enormous power to that investigating officer. No one can change his authority. And then when he thinks that there is any suspicion, under section 176, he informs his magistrate, area magistrate होगा उसका, he will inform to the area magistrate that this is a suspicion in the cause of death, and he will request him to get the body autopsy be done. So then the body will be referred to the nearest autopsy center. ये नहीं हो सकता कि डेथ लाहौर में हुई है तो ऑटोप्सी जाके गुजरांवाला में हो। Nearest autopsy center within that jurisdiction, they are going to conduct the autopsy. And the autopsy surgeon, they are authorized medical officer. And authorized medical officer, they are designated. The medical officer in the tehsil headquarter, in the district headquarter, and in the teaching hospitals. Teaching hospitals, there are demonstrators, and demonstrators, they are authorized by the department to conduct autopsy. क्योंकि उसके बगैर कोई भी दूसरा डेमोन्स्ट्रेटर नहीं कर सकता. दे हैव ऑथोराइज्ड द डेमोन्स्ट्रेटर्स वर्किंग इन द फोरेंसिक मेडिसिन डिपार्टमेंट टू कंडक्ट ऑटोप्सी. So the authority is the authorized medical officer. No one treatment, for treatment you can go to any doctor, A, B, C, D, to whom you want. But for medical legal examination on living or on dead, it is in the area of jurisdiction and by the authorized medical officer, which has been authorized by the department. आप emergency में जाते हैं, 10-15 medical officers they are working, but there is one CMO, casualty medical officer, who is going to conduct the medical legal examination on living or on dead. Now the objectives of medical legal autopsy, it is said that this is a dialogue. It's a dialogue between dead body and the autopsy surgeon. Who are you? The identity. How you died, that is the medical cause of death. How it happened, what was the chain of events, the fatal period, and since how long you are dead, the time since death, and who caused it, that is the manner of death. So the objective will be identity, to determine the medical cause of death, to determine the mode of death, manner of death, time since death, time of death, that is the fatal period, time between injury and death. This is very important. We always face the questions in court because that time period after injury, person remained, for how much time remained alive, so that he can commit the volitional acts which are very important. And they usually question कि ये चोट लगने के बाद डॉक्टर साहब ये कितनी देर जिंदा रहा होगा. They are because you are technical expert. आपकी evidence is more important than the FIR. FIR में लिखा जी हम 5 दोस्त बैठ के फलां जगह होटल में खाना खा रहे थे, ये शख्स इसने आके अटैक किया, फायर किया, इसको गोली लगी, ये चल के गाड़ी तक गया, हमने गाड़ी में डाला, रास्ते में इसकी डेथ हो गई. ठीक है, दे विल प्रैक्टिस इट कितना टाइम पीरियड. और ऑटोप्सी होती है, डॉक्टर साहब ने लिखा हुआ स्टोमक इज एम्प्टी, सो इसका मतलब है द एफआईआर इज रॉन्ग. डॉक्टर साहब कहते हैं कि इसके तो डायरेक्ट हार्ट में गोली लगी थी या ब्रेन में लगी थी, ही कुड नॉट वॉक, सडन डेथ, वो कैसे गाड़ी में डाल के ले गए. सो दिस एविडेंस ऑफ fatal period is very important, and we, upon our knowledge of anatomy and physiology, we give an estimate. हम exact तो नहीं, we give an estimate, and upon that estimate the courts they take the decisions. Then time since death, that is the post-mortem interval, how long this person or this body is dead. Now regarding the personal identity, as the word is saying, this is the absolute fixation of identity, and there are 3 methods to establish the identity: subjective, objective, and third party. Subjective, subject आपके सामने, from head to toe every parameter is his identity, his hair, his face, eyes, nose, ears, everything is a parameter. Objective, any object having an association with the subject, ID card, driving license, clothes, watch, spectacles, every object having an association with the subject is objective. And third party, any third person, the relative, the friends, or in unknown cases the police, they identify that this is autopsy. Usually there are 3 types of situations. In fresh body, the third party, usually it's always third party, the relative, they come and they identify. The names of the identifier, they are written down and they identify with relation to that person. And in decomposition, both the subjective and objective, if it is early, if it is recognizable, then they can. But in advance, usually it is only the third objective examination. Now the medical cause of death. Medical cause mean which system was involved in the causation of death. For example, the first step is structural damage. डेथ की कौन सी कॉजेज होती हैं? मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट, सिंपली अगर आप क्लासीफाई करें, आइदर देयर इज स्ट्रक्चरल डैमेज और फंक्शनल डिस्टर्बेंस. ठीक है, तो स्ट्रक्चरल डैमेज, द फर्स्ट स्टेप in unnatural death will be the structural damage by knife, by rope around the neck, or any other weapon. And this, so the medical cause is a complex that it starts with the structural damage, and this structural damage will then lead to functional disturbances. That is the systemic failure, and that will be leading to terminal event. which is the medical cause of death. So the medical cause starts with the structural damage which lead to functional disturbances and the terminal event, that is a system, vital systems failure, that becomes the medical cause. And this vital system, basically, we know that the tripod of life is the base of life. The three vital systems, the CVS, the CNS, and respiration, it's tripod of life. And this determines the mode of death, that which system is leading as a failure to cause death. And this is also known as atria mortis. This tripod of life leads to atria mortis, that is gateway of death. Gateway of death, that because this vital system's failure will lead to the mode, which is the cause of medical cause of death. So the modes of death, there are three. When there is CNS failure, it will be causing coma, and CVS will cause syncope, and respiration failure will cause asphyxia. So the mode is based upon the systemic failure, vital systems failure. It may be coma, it may be syncope, or it may be asphyxia. Like injury to the heart by a knife, which is the structural damage, and that is the cause, will leading to hemorrhage, that is the functional disturbance, and terminal event will be syncope. So cause, mode, and this is the chain of events which determines the medical cause of death. Now then the manner of death. Manner of death means that it is natural or unnatural. And unnatural is either suicide, homicide, or accident. And this is the investigation, because until unless you visit the scene of crime, you cannot decide. But in our system, in Pakistan, we are not, जब आप बात करेंगे डेथ इन्वेस्टिगेशन सिस्टम की तो मैं बताऊंगा, बेसिकली वी आर नॉट फॉलोइंग एनी सिस्टम. क्राइम सीन इन्वेस्टिगेशन टीम का डॉक्टर हिस्सा नहीं है, इज नॉट द पार्ट ऑफ दैट टीम. अब आके forensic science agency is going to establish the system, and there are crime scene units which are going, but actually the doctor who is conducting the autopsy, he is not the part of investigating team. And until unless you visit the scene of crime, you cannot decide that this is a suicide, homicide. When I was working in King Edward, there are a lot of cases. Police comes to us, they take us to the scene of crime, because sometime when there is, I know few cases, there were partial hanging because the feet were touching the ground, kneeling position, reclining position. Or an ordinary person, he cannot judge. He will say कि नहीं ये इस तरह से death नहीं हो सकती. But we know that just to cause asphyxia, only 5 kg weight is sufficient, and head is 7 to 8 kg. So just compression of the vasculature can cause death. So visit to the scene of crime is most important, and you cannot decide solely at autopsy. So it's a combined study of the medical and non-medical. We perform the medical, but we are not the part of the visiting the scene of crime. Then regarding the fatal period, which I was talking about, that how much time a person was alive after getting that injury. And we, upon our knowledge of anatomy and physiology, we can decide, we can estimate that how long the person would have alive to perform certain volitional activities before being died, before death. So fatal period depend upon the nature of event, the part of the body involved, the systems of the body involved, and the extent of damage. Then the post-mortem interval. This is also a very important aspect of autopsy. How long this person or this body is dead. And this is upon certain changes which are appearing in the body. And this is also known as the time since death. And these changes, they appear in a definitive chronological order, time barred, time framed. And by studying those injuries, we can determine the time since death. ये आप तीनों जरा, ये ब्लू कोट, आप रेड स्कार्फ, आप तीनों इधर आ जाओ जरा नीचे. Yes. So the changes which appear, they are immediate changes, the early changes, and late changes. The immediate changes, they are basically signs of death at the moment of death. And they are the loss of tripod of life, like permanent fixed dilated pupil, loss of all nerve reflexes, cessation of respiration without aid, and cessation of cardiac activity, flat ECG. And the early changes, they are cooling of the body. Body has to attain the environmental temperature. Body will lose heat by conduction, convection, and radiation. Most important is by conduction on the surface where the body is lying. For a certain period of time, body remains warm. The ATP production continues after death. Anaerobic glycogenolysis is continuing, which is sufficient to raise the temperature for a certain period of time. That's why body remains warm for 2 to 3 hours. After that, a gradient is established and body start losing heat and cool down. Similarly, the rigor mortis, body ne akad jana hai. After death, because the ATP is required for relaxation, pushing apart the myosin actin filaments, and body remains in a relaxed state for certain period of time till the ATP production anaerobic glycogenolysis is going on, depending upon the glycogen content in the muscles. It starts in the small muscles because the small muscles have less glycogen content than the big muscles. So when we'll discuss thanatology, we'll understand. So body cooling, this is one parameter we can know the time since death. Then post-mortem staining. Body's blood under effect of gravity cool down. It flows down toward the dependent region, and it takes 5 to 6 hours to organize there. And after that, if you shift the posture of the body, it will not change. So it gives a very important finding. If somebody has shifted the posture, it will be evident because the faint trace marks remain there at the original site. So we determine the post-mortem interval from this very important finding. Then rigor mortis. This is a craniocaudal progression from head to toe. It takes 12 hours to develop on. For 12 hours it stays, and in next 12 hours it passes on. And we, when examine the body in which state it is, we can determine the time period. Similarly, putrefaction, depending upon the weather and certain other factors, we can find out the putrefactive process which is going on. Then biochemical. The fluids give very important information. The ocular fluid, the cerebrospinal fluid, it gives very important finding regarding post-mortem interval. So the objectives of medical legal autopsy, they will be, हो गया वो तो discuss. Then negative autopsy and positive autopsy. Negative autopsy means besides all the efforts, we fail to reveal the cause of death. Cause is there, but we fail to reveal it. The true negative जो होती है, that is vasovagal inhibition. That is classical example of true negative vasovagal anaphylactic shock. Cause है, but you cannot pick it up. Similarly, other vital systems, angina, transitory ischemia हुआ, vessel खुल गई, death हो गई, at autopsy the vessels are open. Similarly, the asthma, epilepsy. So these are various diseases which cannot be, this is the limitation of autopsy, that we cannot determine. So the negative autopsy means the autopsy, at autopsy we fail to reveal the cause of death. डॉक्टर से एक्सपेक्ट किया जाता है उसको कॉज ऑफ डेथ देनी ही देनी है, भाई वाई? इट्स नॉट पॉसिबल, लिमिटेशन ऑफ साइंस है. एक हद तक हम डिटरमिन कर सकते हैं डॉक्टर, उससे बियॉन्ड नहीं. देन पॉजिटिव मीन डेफिनेटली दैट यू हैव dissected out the cause. So this is the corpus delicti which I was talking. It is actually the body of crime. Until unless we fix the responsibility of crime, we cannot punish anyone. First of all, body, dead body आपने recover की, then you find, आपको मालूम हुआ कि ये unnatural death है by some injury, who caused it, ठीक है, आपको पता चल गया कि this person is involved in that. Until unless you establish that crime of committing that assault on that body, you cannot punish him. Because to fix the responsibility of a crime, you have to fulfill the criteria. ये जो इस्लामाबाद का कौन सा वो केस है जिसमें वो ली जा रही है साइकोलॉजिकल डिजीज़ की, वो लड़की जिसको, ठीक है ना, नूर, तो plea of insanity is the most common plea. तो पागल है जी, so पागल डिक्लेयर हो गया, you cannot punish him. फिर प्ली ली जाती है, ये बच्चा है जी, एज, because you cannot give the capital punishment to a child. वो तो पता चल जाएगी, लेकिन उस वक्त उसको तो मिल जाएगी ना. At the time of commissioning of crime, he was child. At the time of commissioning of crime, he was insane. Because there are situations, there are diseases in which there is transitory loss, उसके बाद ठीक हो गया, अब कौन साबित करेगा? So they will matter go to psychiatrist, और वो हो ना हो, भारत आपके सामने केस चल रहा है अभी तक. You cannot award the punishment until unless it is proved. So the corpus delicti, there is a criminal charge of homicide, that किसी ने murder किया है. A positive identification of the victim, victim identify हो गया. Then you have to prove the criminal act of that person, that he caused this crime, and this collectively is known as corpus delicti, which is the actually body of the crime. Now the techniques of autopsies, what time हो गया, चलें, sorry.
Please subscribe to my channel